Twitter feed is live. I just want to give some post-speech comments to the Million Man March. First of all, Minister Farrakhan, well done. I had a pleasure, and I keep a picture right here in my cabinet of that's from the original 1995 Million Man March. That day, I remember I sat on top of the street light, red light, green light, for 5 hours. Like, didn't come down to go to the bathroom. That day was so focused on the word. It was crazy. But when I look at the pictures, they're like identical. And so respect to the new heads that made it. I remember in 1995, I was still running the streets, you know, just them gangs, them guns, chasing them girls. And eventually, at the end of the 90s, that system ate me alive. I ended up getting sentenced to a prison bed. And I left behind children, you know, children's mothers. And it was coming out of that cage that I began to reflect on the word. Is one thing about Minister Farrakhan that I can remember, that he's always been the one who has spoken that you've just got to realize who you are, and that knowledge of self, that you are a child of God. And then you'll walk in your true steps, your true mission on life. You'll find it. And that's what he's always emphasized. So today's speech, you know, I was tweeting some things that he said, and he spoke about, unlike anybody else, he spoke about those 64 years. Those 64 years and what happened to the slaves that came over. And I did a video when 12 Years a Slave came out, and I mentioned, and I'll try to put a link, and I mentioned that the thing about the 12 Years a Slave is that he wasn't beckoning or yearning to go back to Africa. He just wanted to be a free European. and that's what that Minister Farrakhan talked about, those 64 years of how they erased our desire to even look for self. And in those 64 years, that's when they remade the man, or remade the Frankenstein monster that we've become. So shout outs to that, mentioning the 64 years. When he got down to all the salutations and saluting, he started to get down to teaching. And I've always wondered how the young generation would react to teaching, because the young generation has left church, has left the mosque. Their teaching comes from entertainment. And the teaching is the way back to the knowledge of self, of who you really are. And there's a few rappers who give you a dose of it, but I'm mindful of the entertainers because I understand who pays them. So when you look deep at who pays them, you understand that they're not going to really truly open you up to the knowledge of self that the Minister Farrakhan was speaking about today. He constantly goes in and out of Bible, Scripture, Jesus, depth. You have to read it. Don't just get caught up and say, oh, Jesus, I don't have to go to church. It's not about church. It's about that word. And the only way to understand that word is to open the book and read it and allow it to come out. So the marching orders. The marching orders are, scripture-wise, we'll look at it as walking in the Spirit. The tangible manifestation of working the knowledge of self in your daily life. That's the work. The work isn't the march. Now the work is to go back into your community and to work the knowledge of self, the loving and not killing your brother, you know, and not just physically, mind, body, and soul. That's the work. When it's all over, only a few gonna be saved. A lot are gonna be lost. So if just be true to who you are. But the man, and it's almost scripture-wise, when we talk shepherd, that the sheep know the shepherd's voice. So if the call for righteousness isn't for you and it sounds like you're trying to make me just continue to do what you do. In the end, it'll be separated. Do you is not knocking, but to those that call to righteousness, I heard the call in 1995, and it took a while to see that there's a system out there that's trying to kill you, trying to eat you alive. It's trying to set you up to get you off track, to get you off God-minded, and to get you onto just worldly, devilish mindedness, and it'll eat you alive. So, and I think the call was deeper. Just a call is definitely needed for a call for people to join the Nation of Islam, that movement. But I just don't believe that there's one group that has the license for righteousness. The God of all can speak to many, and we're a body and different members. So definitely is that call for members in the Nation of Islam, and it is definitely in that call for the dead churches to wake up, and there's the call for the dead people standing on the corner to wake up. So the call to righteousness, to hear the calling from God and to do the work that you were created to do. Answer the call, man. Hey, 20 years later, still got work to do. Let's work that work. Less talk, more do. We done heard the word. It's time to go out and do it.